Hey, everybody. You are about to hear a brief retelling of the movie Alien Superscript 3. Before we get started, hit the like button and subscribe. It may only be a click for you, but it has a significant impact on the channel. After evaluating a planet with an alien nest, the spacecraft Silico floats across space with its crew trapped in hypersleep. Unfortunately, there is a stowaway alien egg on the ship, which hatches and starts an electrical fire. While the alien attaches itself to one of the crew members, the automatic systems transfer all of the cryotubes into an escape pod and launch it into space. The vehicle's navigation system directs it to the nearest planet, Fiorina 161, which is an all-male penal colony populated solely by the most dangerous convicts and controlled by the same business as the ship. When the convicts find the pod and discover Ripley is still alive, they transport her to the infirmary. Dr. Clemens takes care of her and administers an injection that relieves her agony. He also delivers grim news: she is the only survivor of the crash. The other two humans died, and the android was beyond repair. Meanwhile, the inmates use a crane to transport the shattered ship into the building. Their dog Spike takes the opportunity to go inside and begins barking when he sees the extraterrestrial, who has gone unseen by the townspeople. Afterward, Warden Andrews informs the prisoners that they now have a woman in the building. Some of the men point out that this will cause difficulties, but Andrew assures them that he has already spoken with the firm and requested a rescue ship. Ripley is left in Clemens' care, with strong orders not to leave the infirmary until the spacecraft arrives for her. Meanwhile, Murphy checks on Spike and is surprised to see that the poor dog has several cuts on his head, which is unusual given that none of the prisoners would dare to injure him. When Ripley is better, she demands to see the carnage, so Clemens brings her there and explains how each individual died. The young child perished in her sleep, but Ripley discovers a searing imprint on the edge of the cryotube. When she remembers that the aliens have acid for blood, she becomes suspicious and requests to inspect the girl's body. Next, they head to the morgue, where Ripley begins checking the small girl's body to ensure there is no alien inside. Then she wants an autopsy under the guise of a probable infection, and a suspicious Clemens opens the body. To Ripley's relief, the girl died from drowning, and there is no evidence of extraterrestrial life. At that point, Andrews enters and chastises Ripley for leaving the infirmary, but Ripley diverts his attention by asking him to burn the dead, citing the virus. Moments later, the bodies from the ship are incinerated, and convict Dylan delivers a poignant eulogy. Spike begins convulsing in another room and then explodes as an extraterrestrial emerges from his body, fleeing to another location within the complex. Ripley then washes and shaves her head as per prison policy. Then she walks to the mess hall and attempts to thank Dylan for his eulogy, but he tells her not to approach him since he has done horrific things to women before. Ripley sits down and eats lunch with him anyhow. Later, Ripley questions Clemens about how he became a jail doctor and whether he committed a crime, as he, too, has a barcode on his skin like the inmates. Clemens dodges the issue and instead inquires about the real cause for the autopsy. To distract him, Ripley flirts with him, and they end up doing something filthy. Meanwhile, Murphy is working in an isolated tunnel when he discovers a shed skin. He hears a disturbance and assumes it's Spike, but as he gets a closer look, he's surprised to find the extraterrestrial. The creature strikes Murphy by throwing acid in his face, causing him to stagger back and fall into a massive fan, which instantly kills him. Soon, Clemens is summoned to investigate Murphy's remains. Andrews believes Murphy was distracted and got too close to the sucking fan, but Clemens determines that the fan was blowing Murphy's way. He also discovers a burn mark resembling the one Ripley saw on the hypersleep pod. Clemens seeks answers and discovers Ripley investigating the ship debris for the flight recorder. When he tells her about Murphy, Ripley begins to fear an alien is present, and Clemens demands to hear the entire story, but Ripley wants to recover the android's remains first. Clemens advises her to go to the garbage dump, but he cannot accompany her because he has an appointment with Andrews. When Clemens meets Andrews, he is immediately chastised for letting Ripley go alone. He also mentions that they have gotten high-level communication from the corporation regarding Ripley, who appears to be incredibly important to the upper management, but Andrews is unsure why. An dispute develops about how to proceed, and Andrews warns Clemens that if he does not behave, he would reveal his dark past to Ripley. Meanwhile, Boggs, Raines, and Gallic are on a survey assignment that requires them to place candles to measure various tunnels and chambers in the building. However, certain candles in the distance continue to blow out. Raines proceeds to relight them, mistaking it for the breeze, only to be confronted by the now fully grown extraterrestrial, who grabs Raines and bites him. Boggs and Gallic hear screaming and rush to check on their comrade, but when they see the monstrosity, they return to the door. They discover Raines' dead body. Boggs is suddenly ambushed from above by an alien, who rips out his throat. Gallic is sprayed with blood, and after a moment of stunned silence, flees in terror. Returning to Ripley, she investigates the rubbish dump and discovers the remains of the android. When she attempts to flee, she is apprehended by 3 prisoners who swiftly leap on her and bend her over, planning to take advantage of her. At that point, Dylan walks in and hits the inmates with a piece of steel, threatening to re-educate them. Before she leaves, Ripley punches one of her attackers in the face. Ripley then attaches what's left of the android to a power supply in the infirmary and reactivates him. Using the android system, she accesses the spacecraft's flight recorder and discovers that a fire caused their ejection from the ship and that an alien accompanied them when they fled the planet. This information was shared with the network, so the organization is aware of it. The android is in excruciating pain and begs for compassion, so Ripley permanently disconnects him. At that point, Gallic is carried into the infirmary, claiming that he did not murder anyone, but rather a dragon. Andrews and the others reject him as nuts, but Dylan supports Gallic, claiming that he has never lied. Ripley overhears everything and comes out to confirm the account, but Andrews remains doubtful. They end up meeting in his office, where Ripley reveals everything she knows about the aliens. Unfortunately, Andrews discovers that, except from a few knives and fire axes, the prison contains no weaponry. He also confines her to the infirmary until the rescue ship arrives, as he does not believe her narrative. Later in the infirmary, Ripley is not feeling well, so Clemens administers another injection. Gallic hears her and informs her that she will also die shortly. To divert her, Clemens finally discloses that he was once a prisoner, imprisoned after a medication addiction led to a poor medical choice and several deaths. When the jail was converted into a lead shielding factory and the population was reduced, he chose to remain among the inmates, knowing that no one else would hire him as a doctor again. Suddenly, a shadow appears behind the curtain, revealing the alien and killing Clemens in seconds. The alien then approaches Ripley and traps her against the wall, but after a close look, it steps back and escapes through the ceiling, carrying Clemens' body with it. Ripley rushes into the mess hall, where Andrews is attempting to organize a search team for Boggs and Raines. She informs them the alien is here, and Andrews doesn't believe her, but as he attempts to shut her up, the alien grabs him from above, leaving the vent dripping with blood. Following an initial fear, the convicts congregate in the assembly area and debate who should take over as leader. Ripley interrupts them to explain what she knows about the aliens, albeit this one moves a little differently. The absence of weaponry and a surveillance system complicates planning, and Morse becomes enraged, accusing Ripley of bringing the alien to the prison. Dylan silences him, and the group decides to hear her out. Ripley requests a floor plan, which reveals a massive network of tunnels as well as a toxic waste containment facility that can be entirely sealed off. A heavy steel door conceals barrels of extremely combustible substance. They plan to use that material to burn the alien out of the tunnels and force it into the containment unit, effectively trapping it indefinitely. Soon, the convicts begin preparations by mopping the tunnel with fuel. They also look for functioning batteries for the torch that will provide the signal. Smoking is restricted because even a small spark can create an explosion. While working in the tunnels, they discover regions with holes caused by the alien's acid. One of the inmates is carrying a ladder and accidentally drops his flare, which he retrieves before it causes an accident. Unfortunately, this preoccupation allows the alien to assault him by surprise. The flare falls and ignites the fuel, resulting in a massive explosion that starts a fire and kills several captives. Some guys attempt to flee, but the flames eventually catch up with them and consume them. Ripley and Dylan save as many people as they can, and someone eventually starts the sprinklers, although the group is significantly smaller now that the fire has been extinguished. Afterward, the survivors proceed through the tunnels to gather the remains. While the convicts debate what to do, Ripley becomes ill, so she returns to the destroyed ship to utilize the biological scanner. Aaron assists her with the machine, and after a fast scan, they are surprised to discover Ripley has been impregnated by the alien. This explains why the extraterrestrial did not assault her; it was protecting its kids. Then Ripley wants Aaron to send a message to the firm informing them that the entire base has become hazardous and they should stay away. Aaron is perplexed because the rescue ship is their only hope, but Ripley reveals that the business will transport the alien to Earth to produce weapons. When Aaron refuses to relay the message, Ripley shakes him violently, but she does not change his mind and decides to go to find the alien. At that point, Aaron receives a transmission from the rescue ship stating that they will arrive in 2 hours and that the top priority is to keep Ripley confined. Ripley searches the dark halls for the alien with a flashlight, listening for unusual noises. When she eventually sees the thing, she hits it with a rod, only to realize that she mistook a rusty pipe for the alien's head, and the noise was caused by the bugs within. Suddenly, the alien emerges directly behind Ripley. Moments later, Dylan is frightened by a presence, but it is only Ripley. She says that she sought for the alien and did not assault her because she was pregnant. She also recognizes that the shape she saw on the scan is a queen, implying that her alien baby has the potential to produce millions more. Ripley wants Dylan to end things for her because she will not survive the birth, so Dylan prepares to kill her. However, at the last second, he reconsiders and points out that Ripley's immunity can be exploited to their benefit. Ripley agrees to fight but makes Dylan vow to end things once they destroy the invader. Afterward, Dylan gathers the detainees, and Ripley reveals that the business considered her old crew and even soldiers expendable, thus there is no possibility they will let criminals live. Everyone agrees to fight and devises a strategy. Some men will act as bait, guiding the alien through the lead works hallways and blocking off all openings until the alien is driven into the mold. While everyone prepares the doors and switches, Aaron slips away. Dylan explains to Ripley that the construction is old and hasn't been utilized in 5 years, so some elements may not operate. This implies they only have one chance to do it correctly. Morse tries to seal the remaining door, but it doesn't work, and the alien attacks an inmate, killing him. Another prisoner notices this and draws the creature's attention, triggering the chase. As they speed down the halls, the others close the doors to force the alien to follow the correct course. However, the area's maze-like architecture confuses everyone, and they are unsure which doors to close, not to mention the alien smashing one of their windows. After losing track of the creature, a convict goes seeking for it and uses a flare to refocus its attention. The chase resumes, and despite their continued efforts to close doors, 2 more people are slain. A man panics and almost activates the piston too early, but Ripley stops him just in time. Outside, the spacecraft carrying the corporation workers finally arrives, and Aaron greets them, informing them that Ripley is in the furnace area. The crew makes their way inside, carrying a massive steel cage. Then Dylan enters the tunnels and discovers the alien slaughtering another prisoner, so he takes the body away from the creature's grip and places it near the mold as bait. The alien approaches, and a prisoner triggers the piston. However, the alien recognizes it as a trap and drags the body back into the tunnels without entering the mold. They have 5 minutes to bait the alien again before the piston shuts off the mold. The squad races along the halls in various directions, hoping to locate the alien. While Ripley continues to unearth bodies, an inmate flees as quickly as he can, only for the alien to seize and kill him before he can enter the mold. In another passage, Morse collides with a prisoner, and they both collapse. While they laugh at the fake panic, the alien takes advantage of the situation to kill the other man. Morse moves away from the alien, while Ripley approaches with a flare and begins grappling with it, attempting to force it to attack her. At that point, Dylan appears and pulls her away while she screams, prompting the alien to follow them to defend its offspring. This ultimately causes the creature to enter the mold, and Morse locks the entrance, trapping it. While Morse rushes to the lead platform, Ripley attempts to remain in the mold, but Dylan pulls her away and threatens to kill her later. The couple begins to climb out, but Dylan notices the alien is following them, so he decides to stay in the mold to keep the creature there. While the alien attacks Dylan, Ripley climbs out and instructs Morse to pour the hot lead into the mold, totally burying the invader and Dylan. Morse celebrates, thinking it's finally done, but the alien emerges from the mold and begins hunting Ripley. She begins climbing a series of chains, but the alien follows her at high speed. Morse shouts to Ripley to remind her about the sprinkler system, and she jumps to trigger it. The water falls on the alien, and the abrupt cooling causes fissures all over its body before exploding. Then Ripley joins Morse on the platform, only to be confronted by Aaron and other business personnel. To Ripley's surprise, she recognizes the identical android from her last crew, but he is actually human and the designer who gave the androids their faces. He says they'll destroy the fetus once it's removed from Ripley's body, but she doesn't trust him and closes the barrier between the platform and the group. Morse attempts to flee, but one of the guard troops shoots him in the leg. Aaron, realizing Ripley was correct, attacks the designer in the back with a pipe, prompting the troops to shoot and kill him. Meanwhile, Ripley asks Morse to assist her one more time, and he moves the platform over the boiling furnace. Ripley, determined to end it all, falls from the platform. At that point, the alien breaks out of her chest, but Ripley grabs it tightly, and they both perish as soon as they drop in the flames. Finally, the scientists bandage Morse and take him with them. In the wreckage of the spacecraft, Ripley's audio from her first trip can be heard indicating she is the only survivor.